The City of Plymouth City Council meeting for Thursday, January 11th, 2024 is now called to order. In-person participation by the public is permitted. Members of the public not attending in person may submit written comments prior to the meeting by emailing your comment to the acting or the deputy city clerk before 3:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Emailed public comments will be distributed to the city council and made part of the official record. This meeting is being recorded. Council chambers are wheelchair accessible. Special accommodations may be requested by contacting the city clerk 72 hours in advance of the meeting. Please silence all cell phones or similar devices at this time. May we please have a roll call?
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember Sim,
Here.
Councilmember Amoruso,
Here.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin,
Here.
Mayor Ackerland.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Do we have any young children here who would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And come on up.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Just go up the stairs up that way. Thank you, Jeff. Come on up. Come on up. All right, guys. Right here. And turn and face the flag. And lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Man, that was the best fight you had.
It is good for my school practice.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Start recording those volunteer hours now.
Thank you.
We got another submit.
Okay. Number 2, approval of City Council regular meeting agenda for tonight, January 11th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Could we please have a roll call vote?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sim,
Aye.
Councilmember Amoruso,
Aye.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mayor Ackerland.
Aye.
Thank you. It's been approved.
Thank you. Number 3, public comment. Under provisions of the California Code, the City Council, citizens wishing to address the City Council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time by completing a speaker submittal form to the Deputy City Clerk or following the instructions noted on this agenda. Speakers will be called by the mayor. Speakers should keep comments to 3 minutes or less and state their name and community of residence. Under provisions of the California Government Code, the City Council is prohibited from materially discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda unless it can be demonstrated to be of an emergency nature or an urgent need to take immediate action arose after the posting of the agenda. Do we have anybody here in City Hall who would like to make public comment for items not on the agenda? Just
Is that on? Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Champ, and I live in Plymouth. And I'm here to address the topic of homelessness. Very grateful to be here, and I'm so happy to see all of you. I don't get out that often these days, but just kind of feel like every day that our feet touch the floor that we wake up, as an opportunity to be of service to others and to, serve our God and just do the best that we can, literally every day. And homelessness, like any social concern, it has a variety of ways that you can look at it. And I think we all have our own perspectives on it. And I would, just like to raise the issue that it's of concern in Plymouth and encourage you to just begin discussing it and start looking at it from those perspectives, and maybe even look at adopting some policy on homelessness at a certain point. We had an issue behind my house. There is the empty lot between me and Sandy up on Landrum, and she's a former council member. And we had my neighbor, Mike Montaldo, notice that there was a couple who was homeless who had stayed in the shed. It's kind of an outbuilding behind our property. So he installed better lighting out there, updated the lighting, and we've been keeping the lights on. And that was actually the only time that they were spotted. So they have not been back. But apparently last weekend over New Year's Eve, I was getting ready to leave to go out in Berkeley, and there was a sheriff in the middle of the street, and the sheriff woman was addressing a homeless person and asking them to leave the Vintage Market area behind there and relocate to the park. So we know that, it's endemic in Jackson. It's been more of an issue for them, and it seems like the homeless population here tends to be fairly transient. They move in and out fairly quickly. Of course, we have the walkers, the ones that just kind of come and go over the years, but just in case it gets to be more of a concern, I'd like to raise it as a safety issue. We had a couple teens who were staying with my daughter who heard about it. Even though it wasn't on that day, the day they were staying over is the day that the neighbor told us. So we were discussing it in front of them, and they were concerned for their own safety. Finally, it's an issue that I take personally. Just so happens that some of you heard my story, but my stepfather ended up passing away while homeless after him and my mom got divorced from starting a fire on the American River. And there was also another death up in Pine Grove last year when it froze. And my sister had actually entertained that homeless person. She had taken her kids up to the snow and gave them hot chocolate and food and stuff. And a couple days later, that man passed away in the cold. So I just would like to, my time is over, just wrap it up and say, please consider as a safety concern and as a social concern that the city is in charge of keeping lives alive here. And so in times of cold and heat, we might need to make some provisions for these people and start thinking about it seriously as a policy. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I, Ms. Champ, I'm
course.
sorry.
Of course.
Of course, we can't take no action on public comment, but have you addressed the county at all with this, with the unhoused?
No, and it's my understanding that there has been some movement from like nonprofits towards catering to the homeless, and that the sheriff has a program that's like an outreach program, but it's just
I just
a
truly,
matter of funding for like shelters and things, but I don't know all the ins and outs of it personally.
I just truly feel that the more voices that our board of supervisors can hear,
Okay.
not to say that city of Plymouth does not have a responsibility with the unhoused, but that's just what I've noticed.
We
over
have
my few
noticed
years.
that over the years. There was a homeless commission, and there's all this funding that we can avail ourselves of. I know there is one residence going in. It's booked, it's planned, it's a private company. They're coming into Martell and they're building a place with units, but that doesn't solve the problem of shelters. And it's not an issue that I'm very well educated on in Amador County, but it just came up, so I thought, hey, let's open the discussion. Maybe we can all get more info.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna continue what Amy was saying too. My name's Mike. I live up in Hawksview, and our daughter goes in between our two houses there, on the between Hawksview and there on Landrum.
Excuse me. Would you mind just stating your name? so
Michael
we can-
Spinetta, sorry.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too. And you know, that's one place where our daughter always is. And to build on everything she said, yeah, I did talk to the sheriff and to the DA, and introduced a couple people to the HEART program that Amy mentioned. And you know, so there is help, you know, out there for it for sure. Lighting, you know, I'm gonna put a camera up at their house anyway, you know, because why not? And it's not necessarily for it. It's a nice thing to have for, you know, them to communicate through too. And so, you know, if we can do something that lot there, you know, if the weeds build up in there, you know, make sure that I think Pris owns that between Sandy and Amy. You know, let's make sure that gets weed eated down or something. You know, if those weeds grow up, so if there is a warming fire, if someone, you know, is smoking out there, with greater chance of that than not, that there isn't a little, you know, brush fire. The city's been doing a great job keeping the grass dead completely on its propane property there. But I'd like, you know, a little lighting between here and there wherever a trail ends up going. You know, maybe it would be nice to have something nearer the cemetery or nearer the propane tanks or something with some lighting up there. If you need cameras around, put a camera or two up, whatever works for you. The stuff's cheap now. But beyond that, gosh, I actually forgot what else I was going to say, because that was so good, everything she said. I mean, that was really from the heart. So thank you for your time, and I totally forgot everything else I was going to say. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here in City Hall who would like to make public comment? Okay. Well, I was just going to get to that. So it looks, has there been any written correspondence regarding public comment? Okay. I understand that, Cameron, you want to comment on an agenda item, and but at the same time, you need to get the kids home. It's a school night. So if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to make an exception and let Cameron come up and talk, even though this is general public comment. Would it be okay with everybody, and would it to have
I think I'm missing on talk about what?
one of the agenda items?
Or you could just move that agenda item, close general public comment, and just deal with that. You can move the agenda around. I'd prefer to do it that way.
So move that item.
But then does he have to go, does he have to sit through all the consent calendar stuff?
You could put it.
Okay.
Put it ahead of you.
Okay, okay.
What does he want to? We'll make sure there's no one does he want to comment on.
I don't know, 7.1, 7.2, I don't remember.
7.2.
Okay, so I'm gonna close this now to general public comment, but we're gonna move 7.2 up right now. And so if you could bear with us for a couple more minutes, we'll start with a staff report, but let me read 7.2 first. So I believe it's really 7.3 that he'd like to speak on. We have to do 7.2 first. Okay, yeah, okay. So Cameron, bear with us. So we're gonna move 7.2 ahead. 7.2 is determine if the council would like to reconsider its previous decision with respect to allocation of Prop 68 grant proceeds at Lodge Hill. And could we start with a staff report, please?
This item is before you tonight because Councilmember Sim requested that the item be brought back for reconsideration of the council's decision to spend all of the grant funding at Lodge Hill. And so the council needs to determine whether they want to reconsider that item. If the council determines that they do want to reconsider the item, then the council will then take up item 7.3.
for our public comment speaker. I think backup just arrived. Okay, is there any public comment on? Okay. Right. Is there any public comment on 7.2? Any written comment received? Okay. Anybody here in City Hall who'd like to comment? Okay, I'll close that to public comment. Council discussion? Councilmember White.
I got a little bit, just because this is going to seem like a blast from the past from a previous council member and stuff. When Councilmember Sims asked for this to come back, I don't know if we have, so just so we get a clarification, what rules of order do we run our meetings in?
What rules of order?
Yeah,
in
like
general?
Robert's rules of order.
Well, we follow Rosenberg's.
Rosenberg's, yeah.
But Rosenberg's is pretty silent. It's not as specific as Robert's as far as reconsideration.
Okay.
So we supplement with.
So it's cool to reconsider.
You can absolutely reconsider. The main rule is the people that first and second it need to be the mover of the motion needs to be somebody that voted in the majority the last time. So in other words, the minority can't just keep asking to reconsider something because that would defeat the purpose.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think all 5 of you voted support, so any of you can make the motion.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I don't want to get in a pickle. And with the understanding, because Councilmember Sims, it was said that he said Robert's Rules of Order, so I just want to make sure that we're correct on all that. No problem. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Amoroso, any comments on this item?
Nope.
Okay. Councilmember Sim.
Well, obviously, I have some thoughts about it. We have a finite amount of money that the grant is.
Okay. Councilmember Sim, I'll just for the purpose of making sure we can get into substantive discussion on 7.3 if it gets. The question before us right now is, do we want to reconsider allocation at all? Period.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then we could.
Is that good enough?
Yeah. And then we could call for the question.
Thank you. All right.
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Yeah, nothing to add at this point.
Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, yes, I'd like to see this reconsidered. Do I have a motion?
Yep.
To reconsider.
I'll make a motion for 7.2 to reconsider the allocation of Prop 68 grant funds to McGee Park.
I'll second.
In general, I guess.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sim,
Aye.
Councilmember Amaruso,
Aye.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mayor Ackerland.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to 7.3. We'll move that ahead on the agenda. Item 7.3 is discuss the Prop 68 grant funds and potentially determine use of grant proceeds for McGee Park, period. And could we please have a staff report on this?
So on November 15th, the council determined to use all of the grant funding of $117,000 plus at Lodge Hill. And Councilmember Sim requested to revisit that, and I'm presuming to instead use it at McGee Park. The council talked about not wanting to split the funding so you could do a better project, and I agree with not splitting the funding. You can't do a nice project for $68,000 in this day. And so the council needs to decide whether they want to reallocate the fundings to McGee Park or leave it at Lodge Hill.
Thank you. Now I'd like to open this to public comment. Thank you for your patience. And would you mind hitting the microphone and then also stating your name, just so we have it on the.
My name's Cameron Begbie. I'm a business owner here in Plymouth. I wrote a letter earlier because I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to make it. May I pass it out? Just for your...
Thank you.
I'm just gonna make it simple and read the letter if that's all right.
Of course.
I said the purpose of this letter is to express my opinion on the allocation of Prop 68 grant proceeds in respect to McGee Park and Lodge Hill. Although my private residence does not fall within the city limits, I do own and operate a business, Lava Dog Fire and Police Supply, located on Main Street. Since I was fortunate enough to start working for the Amador County Sheriff's Office in 2009, I quickly fell for Plymouth and decided to raise our two boys here. My family and I care for the city and do what we can to support the city, the school, and our neighbors. There were other more viable options in the county to open our business, but we believe in the city and the direction it is going. With that being said, we respect the history of the city and the role the older families have played in getting us to this point. My opinion on how the Prop 68 grant should be spent is not to diminish the opinions of those that have a substantial more investment in the city's history. It comes from the aspect of how we set ourselves up for the future growth that is bound to come. With the more than likely addition of new housing and a casino, it is not if there is change coming, but when. I believe it is our duty as residents, business owners, and public servants to manage the growth to the best of our abilities so the city benefits, but does not jeopardize its uniqueness and history. Main Street is heading in the direction of fulfilling its amazing potential and generating much needed revenue for the city, but there's much more work to do. I understand the history of Lodge Hill and the desire to make improvements. However, I believe the grant money would serve the city better if it was designated for McGee Park. As I spend most of my days on Main Street with a direct view of the park, I regularly see kids, including my own, and others gathered in the park. I watch how people gather for fairs and concerts. I see aspiring business owners testing new business models and products. I see the vehicle traffic that is brought in by these events in McGee Park. Yes, those crowds do filter into my business, which ultimately brings more tax revenue into the city. I can see the city further capitalizing on the draw McGee Park has as its location is a central gathering place. How this money is spent at McGee Park is a decision for another day. However, I believe if we allocate this grant to McGee Park, we can consider using a portion of the revenue generated from this investment to make the needed improvements at Lodge Hill. We have a tremendous opportunity to improve this focal point of our great city. To set this city up for future success, an investment in McGee Park is our best option. I am ready to see Plymouth begin the process of bringing life back to Main Street, and this starts with an investment in this point of gathering. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here in City Hall who'd like to comment on this item? Please come up and just please state your name, and so that way we have it for the record and on the audio.
My name is Rachel Laura. I am a merchant business owner here. I own the Tin Roof Wine Cafe, and kind of what Cam was saying, how important it is. But before I get into anything else, I just want to say thank you guys for the city workers who keep it so clean. The park, the restrooms. It's important to small businesses like myself. When we do these events, it's just super important to get more traffic, business revenue. But I think having the opportunity to spend the money at the park would be phenomenal. It would just expand, even for the kids, you know, if it was something that they could do to enjoy. It's about our community, our locals. It's going to benefit not just my business, but our locals. So I think it's important. It's important to me, and I could speak for myself and my business that I would appreciate it. I love where we're going in the direction of cleaning it up, and I'm excited about it. So, however things may turn, that's just my thoughts on it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here in City Hall who would like to make comment on this agenda item?
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Michael Spinetta. I live in Hawksview. And really fast thing I forgot was that there's a new law on shelters when it's hot now. That's a new thing for cities and counties. The other thing is, because I'm a nerd, on my phone I can search really fast. You started using Rosenberg's rules in April 2016, not 2023 as it was said online by a former planning commissioner. Anyway, on to this. One of the things I like to do, and I've never gotten paid for a newspaper article in my life. I wish I would, but never asked for it. I like promoting our local businesses, and I think we have some pretty cool merchants here who are doing their best and have some unique offerings. And I see, that we have like our Rotary fundraisers in the park, the farmers markets and all that. And it would be great to have at Lodge Hill, but, our infrastructure is location. It's there on Main Street. And I think it's a great thing to have right there across the street. I have things that I'd like to give to the park. I have some lilacs that have been in my family since the 1800s, when we were flower farmers, before we were foresters, before we were grape growers. I'd like to do that, and wherever else, once I have more of them growing elsewhere. But I'd like to see that area grow. I've had little plans that life has gotten in the way of them, but I have ideas that I've drawn up for murals on the back of the restroom, and and I draw on it with chalk every year, and that lasts a month or so, and it looks kind of neat. But I'd like to see something there more permanent by someone who does murals professionally, not me. And just again, make things more attractive. Talk to business owners, building owners, and see what we can do. Sutter Creek just had a couple more murals painted up by Rand Huggett. They had 3 painted last year, actually, by him, one of which I was in charge of, working with Rand Huggett and the current high school teacher there, Claire Condon. And we're going to use pictures of that mural to sell as postcards as fundraisers for the school. So there's a lot of things we could do with that park where I could, think of other ways that we could fund, the school here in Plymouth or whatever. That's how I think. So I would really like to see the funds come to McGee Park and fix things up there. We are missing 3 pieces of playground equipment that we installed back then. So, benches, things like that. I don't know. Whatever you can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here in City Hall who'd like to comment on item 7.3? Okay, I'll close this to public comment. Have we received any written correspondence? Okay, now I'll close it to public comment and ask the council for discussion. Councilmember White?
I know I've been a big supporter of the Lodge Hill, and I just, but I will also say that I don't think that the funds separated is, of course, we've all realized is not going to be a good idea. That money's not going to go far enough. The more and more I thought about it when it came back up on the agenda, what property is going to be used more, and I definitely got to say McGee Park's going to be used more. So I'd like to see the money working for us. That's just my 2 cents in it.
Thank you. Councilmember Amoruso?
I think Councilmember Heath said it the best. I mean, you know, I think we all agree that that's going to be the most used, most bang for our buck, and yeah, I think it's the direction I think we need to go for the community. Thank you.
Councilmember Sim?
I think everybody knows how I feel about it, but I certainly couldn't put any better than Cameron did. That was very eloquent. Thank you. Well done.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, for me, we had a great conversation on the Prop 68 money, a couple of public meetings providing input, and the day that we took the vote, with November 15th, I believe, had some great ideas about what we could ultimately do at Lodge Hill. And, well, I know I'll speak for me, I got that one wrong. Earlier in that agenda that same night, we talked about TOT and the importance of fiscal sustainability of our community. Then we vote to use grant money to beautify a location that's away from our business center. And so looking at myself in the mirror the next morning, realized we got this wrong, and I'm thankful for Councilmember Sim asking to bring this back. He beat me to it, or I'd have been jumping on it as well. And just echoing what's been said, you know, the comments by Ms. Laura and by Mr. Bigby are, for me, absolutely spot on of where we need to be. And thank you for being here tonight and providing your comments.
Thank you. And then I just want to add that, again, thank you both for being here. And then, you know, we need to remember that it's my understanding that these funds are primarily for recreation. And so I think by allocating all of the funds to McGee Park, not only do we increase the opportunities for recreation and people to get out and use the park and enjoy the park, but the double benefit here is that it's an opportunity to see Main Street become vibrant again. And then I think one of the things that sticks out in my mind is, I know when I was running for city council, and I think we can all relate to this, we were often asked as we were campaigning, what are you going to do about Main Street? And I think everybody in this community has a commitment to our small business owners and to Main Street. I am so grateful that you guys are here and you have your businesses here and the other businesses in town. And I think, you know, I wish there was so much more that we could do for Main Street and small business. We don't have unlimited funds, but to me, this is an opportunity to not only improve McGee Park, that is such a great gathering place anyway, but to make it even better. And at the same time, that in turn supports our small businesses, which again, I don't know anybody in this town who isn't behind you guys. So I would like to see the money allocated to McGee Park. I think there's a lot of value and history and potential for Lodge Hill. But for me personally, I see that as something that maybe we need to address down the road. So that's my 2 cents on it. Any other comments? If not, would somebody like to entertain a motion at this point?
I'd like to make a motion for us to allocate the Prop 68 grant funds to McGee Park based on the public feedback. Or I'll stop it at that. Allocate the funds to McGee Park.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Sim?
Aye.
Councilmember Amoruso?
Aye.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin?
Aye.
Mayor Ackerland?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for being here. So we're going to go back to item 4, presentations, proclamations, and appointments. Could we please have a staff report?
Before you are the appointments to the regional boards, committees, and local ad hoc committees. And these are the appointments that are made generally every 2 years, but since you have a new council member, it is coming before you tonight. In your packet is the list of current appointments. And so there are quite a few vacancies that are on the sheet. And so it is before you for discussion and appointments to fill those vacancies and potentially move people around.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment from anybody here in City Hall on the appointments on these different councils or committees? Any public comment? Okay, nobody here in City Hall. Any written public comment received? Okay, I'll close this to public comment then, and we'll have City Council discussion. Councilmember White, what would you like to volunteer for?
Looking through my pages here. I'll be on the Tribal Citizen Committee, if that's okay with everyone.
I'm not seeing that. Okay. And we already have Councilmember or Vice Mayor McLaughlin, who's expressed an interest. Should be towards the front.
Huh?
About this big page.
I'm not having a good evening.
There you go.
There. Oh.
We currently do not have a city rep on LAFCO, right? That ended the last calendar
That
year.
ended the last council meeting. And I would like a representative to take that spot if they don't mind, just because of time constraints. I know I have an air quality control board meeting on Tuesday, so I guess we can leave me on that.
Air quality control. Okay.
Yeah, but I hate to say that because of the situations in my life right now. I think I'm good with where I'm at with those two. Yeah.
Fair enough. Councilmember Amoruso?
I can do whatever you want me to do.
Okay, wherever you see a blank, we're putting you in.
Yeah.
I can sit on the transit occupancy tax board, since there's a vacancy there if you want.
Which one?
The TOT board, the transit occupancy tax committee.
Okay,
This is there. Solid waste, this is vacant.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Solid waste. Solid waste. Down here.
Okay,
Gotta leave it for
oh wait, Solid Waste Management Regional Agency or Solid Waste Task Force?
first one.
Okay. Councilmember Sim?
I see that I'm already on the Amador Council of Tourism. I'd be happy to stay there. And also the Amador County Transportation Commission. Both of them meet, once a month. And I'm already on the ad hoc, the COPS ad hoc as well, so those three. Thank you.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin?
Yeah, I'm currently on 5. I'd like to stay there if I could.
And then I have a question. What is the intergovernmental committee? Anybody know? Any?
I'll be on the intergovernment if we don't know.
They meet as needed.
I don't-
Seriously?
I don't see that we need to meet, so yeah.
Okay. And then I'm happy to stay on ACRA and the Abandoned Vehicle Authority, which meets as necessary, at least once a year. Public Relations Community Events. I'm not even sure what that is, but we can find out. Sounds interesting. And then Peter, I'd be happy to be on TOT committee with you. Okay.
Isn't Keith on the tribal committee with Mike McLaughlin?
We just put me on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have some that aren't filled, and I guess that's just the way it will be.
I have a question, Madam Mayor. The broadband subcommittee, what is that all about?
Yeah, that is a good question. That was something that
No.
I think it's been on the on this list in years past, and I think and then Councilmember Kleinfelter and I were going to do something last year, but I don't even know if we need that committee.
Well, I'll help you with your support if you need anything. I don't know what it is, but it's something to deal with broadband, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a question. I know there's some vacancies, and obviously we can't do everything, but are there some that have a vacancy? I guess the question goes to Margaret. Are there some local community committees here where we don't have representation, that we really need to have somebody there, right? So that we're making sure that, we're not missing the mark on something.
No, I really pay attention to the Regional Transportation Mitigation Committee agendas, and if there's something really important, I've been attending those meetings. And with the ACTC Plan Update Roundtable, again, I've been watching those agendas, and I don't feel like we've had anything on there that we've needed to have somebody at those meetings. Doug, have you been going to the ACTC TAC meetings? Or just the regular ACTC?
I'm sorry, which one?
The TAC meetings? The Technical Advisory Committee meetings for ACTC?
No, I have not been to that one.
Okay,
I have been to their monthly meetings.
Okay,
I'm not sure what that is exactly.
Okay,
The Transportation Commission is made up of 3 of the 5 cities, and we are not on that right now. Sutter Creek and Plymouth are not on that board. So I just go and listen from the seats that, I don't participate in that until I think in a couple of years we get back on it again, and 2 of them get off of it. I believe that's how it works, and we don't get on until I think, 2029.
Okay, so it's a rotating seat.
It's a rotating thing. So all it is just go listen and report as to what's going on. They do a lot of Caltrans work with Caltrans, and of course right now with this high school consolidation, it's a big thing amongst this group. And anyway, that's the one you mentioned. I don't know what that means. I will find out.
Okay, those agendas come out monthly, and the TAC agendas come out monthly, and I've been watching those agendas, and I've been paying really close attention. They've had a couple of interesting items that I've attended those meetings as well. The only other thing is it may come up for the grant funding subcommittee with staff. We can do with just Mike. We just may put you to work.
If the council doesn't mind, I'd actually like to participate on that committee as well,
Okay.
as long as the council doesn't have any objection.
And I think, well, looking at that solid waste, there's two parts to that. And they meet like one after the other. I mean, it kind of sucks to be there for 4 hours, but because it's 2 hours and then another 2 hours usually. So I guess I can put myself down and I'll talk to whoever the head of that is and find out how important it is or what that's about.
Okay.
Since it falls on the same day and kind of back to back.
Okay. Any other comments from council members? Do we pretty much have this all covered?
The only thing I can add is I've noticed, in my case, some of the dates are incorrect.
Mm.
So you need to pay attention.
Yeah.
You can't go by what this says exactly the day of the month.
If you find something that's incorrect, if you can let me know.
The tourist one is incorrect. It said May 2nd Thursday of each month, and that's not. They've changed their meeting time and place to the Sutter Creek Hotel, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but it's not the second Thursday. I just used.
And then how about, should we have LAFCO listed on this? And just, I don't know, not applicable at this time because we don't,
I can do that.
okay. Yeah, not at,
Right now, Plymouth is
we're off the rotation.
Just put a note on whoever has it, maybe where the fill, like the airport one up above where it's Sutter Creek and Jackson all over.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're good with this. We don't, do we need to take a motion or anything, or? Okay. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar items. All matters listed under the consent calendar are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless, before the city council votes on the motion to adopt, members of the council, staff, or the public request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. And 5.1 correspondence, there is no correspondence, correct? I don't see anything under correspondence. No, that was for public comment.
Accept the
I-
consent calendar as.
I think, don't we have to open consent calendar to public comment?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yep, I
Yeah.
jumped the gun.
Is there anybody, so I'll open it to public comment, anybody here in City Hall who'd like to make a comment on the consent calendar? Have we received any written correspondence, comments?
No.
Okay, I'll close this to public comment then. And if somebody would like to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented.
Is there somebody who'd like to second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sim,
Aye.
Councilmember Amoruso,
Aye.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mayor Ackerland.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Number 6, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. Number 7, regular agenda items. 7.1, review and discuss changes to the City Council Policy CC-048, transient occupancy tax grants. Can we please have a staff report?
This item is coming back because it was requested by the mayor to review this policy. It was originally adopted in 2019, revised in 2020. It is an old policy that is a little bit out of date, and we no longer have a committee. So when the grants come in, we're not really following the policy, how it's written. And so I would suggest that the council review it and suggest some modifications to the policy for staff to come back with a revised policy or revise it tonight. And that would be my suggestion.
Thank you. I'll open this to public comment. Anybody here in City Hall who would like to comment on item 7.1 regarding the TOT grant policy? Have we received any written public comment on this? Okay, I'll go ahead and close this to public comment and open it for council discussion. Councilmember White?
You know, this policy kind of came into effect because it used to be that we were getting a line out the door when someone was asking us for money. And I almost think that this has worked in the reverse way than what the idea was supposed to be behind it. Because the idea was supposed to be like, if a lot of them could be handled up front, you know, and we had the limit on it, and Peter can attest to this too, that that the city manager can handle them, and then anything over 5,000, you know, 5,000 ain't jack anymore. I mean, I hate to say it. I think it's so ridiculous to have our city manager's hands tied. So I do think that we need to look at the limit, because if someone comes in here and asks for, you know, 7 or 8, and I don't think that's unreasonable. The quarterly thing is also, I feel, just extremely difficult. Some people might have an event that or an idea or a project or whatever that this tax money that does belong to the citizens could be used, and they didn't hit the right quarter on it. So that's just my thoughts.
Councilmember Amoruso?
Well, yes, you know, lots of mixed emotions on this. Like Keith touched on, you know, originally this was a discretionary fund. It was set up that way. People came to us. We granted the money, whatever that may be, you know, over the 5,000, as you said. Then it got super complicated, and it got really, really hard to even. I mean, then people just stopped showing up, which I understand that. You know, I think it got very clumsy, and I never agreed with any of it to begin with because I thought we were handling it, but it did start to kind of, when we were getting almost every meeting, people showing up, it could take good chunks of our meetings. So I mean, it did become a little bit cumbersome that way too. So that, you know, we never really struck the happy medium or found what worked that way. So I think we kind of take it back to the, you know, back to the original spirit of it. Personally, I think we could go back to that. And if we find that it's building and things are snowballing again, then we might have to relook at it again. But I think just kind of go back to that, you know, as needed basis and who shows up, and you know, we can have those discussions. And I agree. I think 5,000's nothing. So I think raising that to 7 or 8 is very reasonable on today's market. So, all right, thank you very much. That's all I'll say.
Councilmember Sim?
I have a question that says that the funding source for the City of Plymouth grant program is 20% of the transient occupancy tax TOT collected. I thought it was 10%. Is it 20? It's 20, not 10. That's correct. Okay. I don't see how it's being abused. When I first came on council, that there was a line at the door. People were coming in off and asking for large sums of money, but not so much recently. I don't find a lot of holes in this. I think it seems to be working okay. I'm a little concerned about that the money's being collected properly amongst the various businesses in the city, because I understand it's pretty much on a it's up to it's up to the company that in the business in the city to pay this tax, and I just question if it's being properly checked out and make sure that we're getting the proper amount from each business. In other words, some accounting is. I don't think there's been a lot of this money for the year of 2023. I don't think we spent a whole lot of TOT money on various. I know the biggest one was the kids for the rodeo and a few small events, but not a lot of money. Maybe we should be spending a little bit more money in order to promote our city.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
No, just from COVID on, we haven't spent hardly anything.
Right. So I don't see any problem with this. But, for some reason, I thought it was 10%. Sorry about that. That's all I have.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin?
I have a couple things. Yeah, I'm in full agreement with what's been said that, $5,000 in 2024, I think that's where we are, when we are, is low, and maybe looking at that, and would love, staff feedback on, should it be 7,500 or 10,000, I guess depending on what the grant's being used for. One item that I find interesting is there's nothing in this policy that says who actually approves the grant requests and applications. It's alluded to under the grant timeline, but it never specifically says, and I know we had a conversation, it was when we reviewed the rodeo one that, the city manager can approve for, grants less than 5,000, only those more than 5,000 come to the council, but there's nothing in here that talks about who approves any of the grants per se, and I think it'd be important to just articulate that. And then it talks about the grant advisory committee where, through conversations, I've heard different things, that if we're going to have one, I say we fill it. And if we're not going to have one, then I say we do away with it. But I mean, it's an opportunity for community involvement. I mean, my thought is keeping it in and filling it, but then putting a statement in that if there isn't an advisory committee seated at the time, then that defers to, I guess, the council or whomever, however we do it as part of that piece, just so there's, clarity for looking at that. Those are my only thoughts. I'm happy to help do work on it and I guess provide more, clarify my rambling thoughts and in writing. So that's all.
Thank you. So thank you for putting this on tonight's agenda. This was my request, and my thinking was just to make this a little bit more relevant to what our experience has been in the past 4 years, and I do like the idea of continuing with the application deadlines. because to me, that ensures that staff has enough time to do whatever they need to do instead of, but then again, if there is something that comes up at the last minute, that there would be exceptions made. But generally speaking, especially the grant funding that we've provided, year after year after year, the ones that we can kind of count on every year, to ask the applicant to adhere to those deadlines. But as far as the TOT advisory committee, I hadn't thought about what you suggested, Vice Mayor McLaughlin, but I thought that could we just eliminate that, because there is no TOT advisory committee, and from what I read through, what this would mean if we had a TOT advisory committee, that means each one of us would appoint somebody to the TOT advisory committee. And while I agree with you and love the idea of encouraging community involvement, I've also seen how people are stretched a little thin. And to find 5 people who will make this commitment to meet quarterly, I'm not sure that I find that realistic. So that was my thought on that. As far as grant request, maximum grant request to $5,000 per application, I guess I'm kind of wondering, what does that mean? When I read that, that tells me that you can only request $5,000, period. But as we know, that's not the case. So does that mean that, and if we say we change that to $7,000 or $8,000, does that mean that the city manager can approve something up to, say, $7,000 or $8,000, and anything beyond that comes to us? So I'm just a little bit confused with what that means. And then as far as applicants must adhere to the following, well, we all know there must be direct beneficial impact to the city of Plymouth. Of course, we want to see the applicant have all the required permits and insurance, and submit that to us. But since I've been on the council, I can only think of one time that I've ever seen any type of closeout documentation. And I don't know if that closeout documentation is being provided to city staff, and we don't see it on the council.
It is. Closeout financial information is being provided to us.
Oh, okay, from every applicant?
I'm going to say 90% we
Okay.
get.
Okay. So it looks like, and with applications, I don't know if we say that if the applicant has been awarded TOT funds in the past, a list of all events and corresponding TOT grant funds received by the applicant within the last 3 years, they must submit that with their application. So I don't know if that's coming in with the applications, and then again on page 2, where it talks about the TOT Grant Advisory Committee, that the City Council shall appoint a 5-member TOT Grant Advisory Committee. Well, in my almost 4 years on the council, I've never appointed anybody. So I think my point is I just want to make sure if we have a policy that it's relevant and we're adhering to it unless if there's an exception that comes up. And then again, the grant post activity reporting requirements. Grantee should be prepared to provide closeout documentation after the activity, which includes a financial report showing all revenue and expenditures. And so 90% of them are doing that, and that they must provide that within 90 days.
I'm getting the expenditures. I'm not necessarily getting the revenues.
Okay. So we either modify this or we start letting the applicants know and the grant recipients know that this is an expectation that we will get this. And so to me, tonight was just a discussion to think about, do we need to clean this up a little bit? Because again, I think if we have a policy, and I think everybody would agree, if we have a policy, we need to do our best to follow it. We can't pick and choose which policies we're going to follow. So I just want to make sure that we're sticking to it or modifying it as needed. So that is my 2 cents. We have a TOT committee now, and I don't know if so now I kind of don't even know what the purpose of our TOT committee is, to look at if this policy needs to be tweaked, or do we, as the TOT committee, do we? So we
I
can.
don't remember who was all on it.
Yeah.
These people might not even be around anymore.
Well, and I think a big part of it is we put this policy into effect in 2019, and shortly after that we went into COVID, and everything was stopped. Yeah, and I think that's what kind of happened with the committee for it.
If I could suggest, with the discussion and feedback that's been collected with this discussion, refer the policy back to our TOT ad hoc committee with Councilmember Amoruso and Mayor Ackerland to work with staff to, I guess, go through and make a recommendation back to council.
That's what I'd like to see.
On the actual policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the policy, yes.
I was going to say, we can't have ad hoc to review the and recommend use of the TOT funds, because that would be forever.
Right.
Correct. Then we can have an ad hoc for the actual policy.
Right.
Now, if Councilmember Amoruso, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway, if we're on the TOT policy committee or whatever, but another council member has a suggestion, can't, okay, that needs, okay,
So that's why the ad hoc can bring it back to council.
yeah, okay,
You don't have to bring it back to council just when it's all done. You can bring it back at any time.
okay,
Say, we're chewing on this, what the rest of you?
yeah, okay,
Maybe a brief, like, synopsis.
Yeah.
okay, that's what I
To
thought.
get consensus.
Yeah, you could get further direction.
Yeah, for the direction. So,
Oh, we heard your comments tonight.
Yeah,
We get to
yeah,
speak once.
yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, does anybody feel like a motion needs to be made, or we just table this and Councilmember Amoruso and I will
I think we table it, and I think that's a great
brainstorm on this, yeah,
I agree with that too.
yeah, okay. Okay, again, thank you for indulging me on this one. So we'll move on to item 7.4. Approve First Amendment to employment agreement with city manager, increasing annual compensation and making other contractual changes. And could we please have a staff report?
Yes, Mayor, Council, this is the First Amendment to the city manager's contract, as you just read the title. It does 6 things. 1, it increases the base salary from $119 to $135 annually. It includes now a monthly car allowance of $325. There is also a COLA adjustment that is incorporated into her for her base salary. And her accrual of vacation leave will now be 240 instead of 120. That just affects how much she is allowed to accrue in the bank. It doesn't give her more leave per year. It doesn't change that calculus. One cleanup is to change the holidays that she can take to coincide with all the other staff. So it just kind of incorporates whatever is allowed per the personnel manual. And adjust the severance from 3 months to 4 months for the year 2024, and for 2025 and beyond, 6 months. This contract is, there's no specified term. There's no specified sunset. It's indefinite at-will employment contract. Because of that, there are no automatic renewals contemplated in this contract. In other words, it doesn't say at 2 years when the contract expires, it shall automatically renew. If there's a renewal, it will automatically give a new salary of X. There's no renewals. This is it. And, And the only adjustment to their base salary is the COLA. So that's pretty much the long and short of it. The amendment is, you have the original agreement attached to the packet, and then we have, the amendment as well, that just deals with those 6 issues I just described. Any questions?
So let me go ahead and open this to public comment. Is there anybody here in City Hall who'd like to comment on this agenda item, 7.4? Okay, there's nobody here in City Hall. Have we received any written public comment on this? No, we haven't. Okay. So let me just make sure that we're really clear that there is no public comment on this item at this time. Okay, I will close this to public comment at this time and open it for discussion amongst the council. Councilmember White.
It's kind of funny how life runs in parallels. I have one of my most trusted employees that I had to give a raise this week too. And just thinking in terms of, I'm a firm believer in people should get paid what they deserve. I don't believe that this is enough in this situation, but I dealt with the same situation at my office. Did not believe that the raise that I gave the employee was enough, but the money's got to be there, and that's the stipulation in this. So yeah, of course I support.
Councilmember Amoruso.
Nothing this time, thank you.
Councilmember Sim.
I'm fine as well.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin.
I echo Councilmember White's comments and no further comment.
And I agree with Councilmember White that this increase is well deserved. Maybe a little editorial here that don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I'm disheartened with some of the information that was posted on social media, some of the information that was not true. And as an example, there was an example given of, and I'm just going to use this one example. I'm not going to go on forever tonight about this, that the city manager for the city of Pasadena had a salary of something like, I don't know, $136,000 or something. When in fact, you can go online to the city of Pasadena's website, you could pull up the city manager's contract and see that the salary is about $330,000. The total compensation package is over $500,000. So some of this information is just not true. And I just had to get that off my chest. And again, say that I think this is well deserved. And if we had $330,000, maybe it would be a different conversation. And I hope Pasadena never recruits you. So anyway,
Gorgeous.
Anyway, and I think I think maybe what I failed to realize when I first got on the council was, yes, this is a very small community, but there's still the obligations of a large city, and that was kind of an eye opener to me. There's infrastructure, there's public works, there's human resources, and all that, and there's I'm sorry, what?
No,
Finance, and there's not a lot of support staff. So I support this, and okay, I better leave it at that. Anyway, I would entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the city manager's contract.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sim,
Aye.
Councilmember Amaruso.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mayor Ackerland.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Agenda item 7.5, review and discuss any changes to City Council Policy CC-005, City Council-City Attorney Communications Policy. Could we please have a staff report?
This item is before you tonight due to Vice Mayor McLaughlin at the last meeting requesting that the city council policy regarding city attorney communication be brought to the council. The original policy was adopted in 2020. I have to say it's a brief policy. And it's before you to discuss and advise if you want to make changes. And if you want to make changes, we can discuss those changes and I can bring them back to a future meeting for adoption.
Thank you. I'm going to open this to public comment. Is there anybody here in City Hall who'd like to comment on this item, on item 7.5? Have we received any written public comment on this item? Okay, thank you. I'll close this to public comment. And now council discussion. Councilmember White?
I don't have any at this time.
Councilmember Amaruso?
I don't have much to say. I just have a quick question. You know, do you feel this is questions for our attorney, obviously. Do you feel that this is being abused or has been abused heavily in the past, and this is a potential concern and expense to the city?
Do I think the policy's been abused, or do I think the use of my office has been abused without this policy?
Kind of both.
Okay. I think in the past, yeah, I would just say, you know, I think there's always the propensity that, you know, someone could use me probably more than necessary. I'll just say it's something that I haven't really experienced in a good while, especially with this council. So, you know, and I don't think this policy has been abused. There may have been little hiccups here and there, but there's certainly been no abuse at all. You know, sometimes, frankly, I forget about the policy. So, just to be perfectly honest. So I don't think there's been any intent to abuse it. I think everybody's been worked in good faith with it.
That's all.
Councilmember Sim?
I think it's a good policy. I don't think it's been abused the last couple of years. Perhaps at one time it was. And the other thing is, we meet 2 times a month, every 2 weeks. I don't know why I would have to reach out to the city attorney in between council meetings if I had a question. And I think it's working fine. It is a good. It's good that it's defined, and that's my 2 cents.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, it was great to see there was a policy. I think in the course of our conversation at the last meeting, it was unclear if there was a policy. It's nice to see that there is an enabling policy for the resolution. You know, I think, going back in trying to, with policies, I try to figure out, okay, what's the goal? What are we trying to achieve? Obviously in this, it's manage expenses. It's, I guess, prevent abuse or, whatever the case. The question is, well, is this policy really something that's even needed or not? But, I defer on that. For me, there's a couple of things that flag in terms of process. One of being this creates an undue burden for the mayor. So the mayor gets to determine if you call or if you don't, or who gets to or who doesn't. And if they say no, I mean, it just creates on the position, right? It's not it's just an additional step, especially if there's not an abuse of the office or excessive use. It creates additional work for the mayor. But one thing that comes up though that I find interesting is it talks about even, I think copying on written correspondence is on this, that if there's something of a sensitive nature, by not being able to CC the city attorney on that correspondence, it's now a discoverable document. It's not protected by attorney-client privilege, which I see could be hopefully never an issue, but I could see it could be problematic, especially have something in nature. I guess, Frank, I know, I mean, BBK represents, hundreds of, local government entities. In terms of a policy of this nature, I think as Margaret mentioned, this policy is the policy itself, not the resolution that this is what we'll do, but the policy itself is very brief. Is there, do you have access to an industry standard best practice policy of this nature, since, like BBK contracts with tons of jurisdictions, maybe something that may have a little more clarity, that, I'd like policies to see written as enabling and action oriented, and this one is you shall not, you shall not, you shall not, where instead of being this is how you should do it, right? Anyway, just my 2 cents on it. If the council is good with the policy as written, I have no major objections. It's nice to see that we have one.
I'll say this: it's unusual to have a policy like this at all. I'll just say that. So I don't know if I could put an email out to all of our attorneys in our firm and say, do any of your clients have any of these policies? And I'd probably get crickets back, is my guess. This is a very unique policy. At the same time, there was concerns about cost and all those other things. So I understood why it was put in. The closest I've seen to something like this relates to, as it just relates to other policies we have, which is, you don't want any one council member giving direction or tasking the city attorney, just like you wouldn't want that for the city manager. And I think that could be the root issue behind all this, was 1 or 2 council members sort of going rogue and trying to get either use my office or the city manager's office to do stuff. So if that was the concern, I do think that's partially covered already by the other policies, or the other policies could be amended. But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely take a look at it, Vice Mayor, to see if I can find any other examples. I didn't obviously draft this policy. This policy was written by the staff at the time, which made sense. They probably just felt like I shouldn't be involved because it involves me. But yeah, I'm happy to take a look to see if I can find anything. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay, Madam Mayor, can I speak now?
Yes.
Call on you?
No, you called on me. No, you
Oh,
called.
okay.
No, you called on me, and I skipped. But I wanted to hear
Okay.
everyone's on the council's viewpoint. Sorry about that and
Okay.
everything. Okay, this policy came into effect when I was mayor. I will say that the policy through that 1 year was abused. Even
Not
though,
the policy.
even though when I was supposed to be asked, I was never asked.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was abused.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't even know what good it's for, because
Well, can I respond to that?
go ahead.
Like I said, this council's been good. They're having issues in the past, but at least when that happened, there was something to point to.
And we did do that, yeah.
And so, I mean, it was, it would happen, but there was something to point to, something to remind, something to admonish, and it was a way to sort of exit the conversation. And that was something that both I and the previous city manager did do when it came up. So it was, it didn't prevent that initial attempt, but it didn't prevent the continuous attempts, but at the same time, it gave us something to point to.
I'm sorry, and I just got a little spark of energy over it because I just remember that time. I'll be real honest. To be real, Frank, I like you a lot, but I don't need to call you. I mean, I can see you once every 2 weeks. We're good.
Okay, so I have an idea. Obviously, there are times that, when we're researching something or trying to learn more or something, we have legitimate reasons that we want to get Frank's, at least, can you help me understand this? Or what about this? Or, um, I think that in the budget, we have a pot of money allocated to each council member or all five of us as a whole, I don't know, for training. If I had to guess, I'd say it's like $10,000. What if we took that $10,000 and maybe said, okay, each council member is going to get an allowance. You have, you have X amount of hours you can use. Obviously, it's got to be related to city business, which I think we all understand that. But I'll just throw out a number for example. Like, okay, we each get 2 hours a quarter, and again, that number means nothing to me. But so there's kind of like a balance because they certainly see the need to, and it's not just us, but it's future councils. The city might down the road have some council members that again go back to going a little bit rogue. So could we do something like, and so, I have my 2 hours, or Doug, you've got your 2 hours a quarter, and I don't know what that would mean for bookkeeping for you or keeping.
Obviously it's the council's decision. It's an administrative thing that's now going to have to be figured out. Whether the council members are keeping track or I'm keeping track, whatever. And again, I can do whatever. I don't mind. I think I'm just thinking about the current council and over the last couple years or so, I haven't really noticed an issue. I don't think Margaret's, have you noticed an issue? I mean, I think the calls that I've gotten have always been relevant and necessary and important.
And this would include emails too, right?
I don't email, so it's all good.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I think it just comes back to what is the council, what is the goal that they're trying to accomplish? I mean, and what is because you may allocate 2 per, and then 2 or 3 of you may not use any of it. So what, do they get to bank the time to the others?
No.
I don't know.
It goes back to the training budget.
Yeah.
I know this question's kind of probably unrelevant. Were you with BB&K at that time that we put this in? No, that's what I thought. Yeah. And I don't know the leniency, because I know you were being pretty lenient with us.
I'm just as lenient now.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I didn't know if the firms were different.
There's a lot I just don't. I do no charges for.
Okay.
Already.
I was gonna say, don't say that there's a lot I don't do, because that's.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not like nickel and diming. Put it that way.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just look at it as, I understand why the goal of this went into place because of the reasoning at the time.
Yeah.
As Frank said, that we could go back and point
Yes.
at this.
Yes.
But that's kind of what all it did was just hey, we got this policy in effect, and I don't want to say that I think it went in one ear and out the other, but that's kind of how I think it went.
Well, we also have other policies as a council now that we've adopted in the last few months that hold council members accountable to each other if they start violating policies. And we have a code of conduct policy, potentially censure. I mean, there's things now that the council can do to hold each other accountable that we didn't have before. So I would say it's not just a paper policy anymore. There's some teeth to it. It could be one of these things, and again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but it could be one of these things where if we sense that there's an issue again, that's where I have a conversation with Margaret, and maybe we bring some potential tweaks to the council. as we deal with it in real life. I don't know.
Madam Mayor? Oh, sorry.
I think the policy as it is right now is working. I don't see any unrealistic charges from anybody. I've had a couple phone calls from council members or emails from council members asking if they can contact the city attorney for XYZ, and seems reasonable. Of course, I let it, it's not a big deal. So I don't see any, you know, absorbent charges for the city attorney. So in my opinion, it's working the way it is. If I didn't think it was working, of course, I would talk to Frank and bring it to the council's attention that, look, the policy as it is not working. But I think it is working because costs are not out of control. That's my concern, is cost. The other part of it would be your concern of council members going rogue on topics.
Just if I may, just an important point is either only the city council as a body or the mayor can approve. So in this current, I mean, you know, this agenda pack is the first time I've seen this policy. So in terms of digesting for context, so.
The way I understood was you had either get permission from the mayor or the city manager.
That's what I thought. You're right, that's not in the policy.
Oh, it's not, it's just the mayor.
Yeah, which puts adversarial issues out there.
Well, and the other.
I think it should go to the,
Well, the other thing
anything,
is,
to Margaret.
and the other thing that. I was gonna say this.
I'm trying to find my words.
The other thing is what happens when, someone who may be, taking advantage of that becomes the mayor, right? It assumes that
Right.
all the good actors will always be a mayor, right?
Yep.
And that's not always
No,
the
that's
case.
true.
Yeah, because it's open-ended on the mayor's side.
And it did happen.
Try not to.
I know.
So what if we were to stay with the policy, but switch the mayor to the city manager? And then if it does come up that we have issue with it, then we revisit the policy.
I think that sounds reasonable. I'd be,
I have one quick question.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. No, you're fine. My quick question is, I know when you were with Myers Nave, Jeff had set a contract with Myers Nave and you and prior attorneys, you know, on a $3,500 a month budget, not to exceed, without explanation. Is that still in place? Did that go with you to BB&K?
Well, even when I was at Myers, the budget was a retainer of X amount. It may have been around 3,500. I forget the exact dollar amount, but it was basically billed for so many hours a month. But after that, then you just paid a la carte, so to speak. But it didn't require any special noticing or anything because I didn't do that. My predecessor didn't do it, so I don't. Yeah, but that same concept did come over. Yes, yes, yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
it's just good for us to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
you know, one of the things that I see as a possible disadvantage, by saying the city manager can approve this also,
Yeah, same thing, but what if you go mayor/city manager?
mayor and or?
Yeah.
Because
and/or.
what I,
Or take the mayor out of it. So
Well,
there's not
that-
an adversarial
But
situation.
not that I
oh,
think,
but I'm thinking with the city manager too, the city manager, regardless of whether or not it's Margaret or anybody else, we are her bosses.
Yes.
And we're still one of five.
And
That's
and-
correct. I'm going
Yeah,
exactly with your thoughts on that.
And I don't want to see the city manager, again, whether it's you or somebody else, be put in a position of, well, I have to say yes, or I'm not not comfortable. I want to say no, but this is one of my bosses.
Well, on vice versa, on something like that, what if we do get a city manager? Hopefully you're not going anywhere, but what if we do get a city manager that comes in and we need to terminate that city manager and we need to ask for legal advice? And no, you can't call the attorney, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
you know. So.
I mean, it's, yeah. And that's the problem. There's certain situations I have to step in and I have to know whether your policy allows for it or not. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, it's just,
Yeah.
the state bar ethics rules require me to kick the door in sometimes. And
Yeah.
so, you know, that's the other issue.
There was a situation since I've been on the council when I wanted to contact the city attorney, but I felt like, and I did ask permission, but I felt like it was something that I really, really only wanted to speak to the city attorney about. And so when I asked for permission, I just basically said, you gotta trust me on this.
Yeah.
And so there are those, but then I also think that if it's something like that, highly confidential, sensitive, or something like that, then council member, and maybe we add into the policy, unless it's something of extreme sensitivity or something like that. I don't know, but I have to agree. I think it's a good policy. Can it be approved upon? And my concern also is mostly budgetary reasons. So.
And you know, I can take it to the rest of my firm and see if they know all three and see if they have, and maybe we'll find something that's helpful.
So
Some of your other cities have the same concerns as you've been hearing up here.
Yeah, I mean, they always have those, in a political environment, you always have concerns about council members using either the city manager or the city attorney's office to shut down their own, satisfy their own agenda. But it hasn't been, it's always sort of fomenting below the surface, you know, it never rises to explicit policy. Like I said, the policies that I've seen that deal with it are more in terms of, hey, you can speak, you can't give direction to the city attorney or city manager outside of the council meeting, and that kind of stuff I've seen in policies. Not necessarily, you can't talk to them unless, you know, you get permission from so-and-so.
It's probably more of a problem when city council members don't get along that well.
Yeah.
So what are the wishes of the council at this point? To table this and get more input from?
I will say this, I have some policies deal with staff. That's easier, where staff cannot contact the city attorney unless they get approval from the city manager. It's the dynamic from council to the city manager, that's where it's harder.
I think we need more information.
For me, just my closing thoughts would be, one, it'd be interesting to see what else may be out there, right? That we aren't a unique city to where we need to create a unique or novel policy. And I asked a question, my concern is any policy that's written for a person, for a specific event, for a whatever, is the wrong reason to write a policy, right? A policy is intended to address a bigger overarching piece. And so the question, I say this somewhat, rhetorically, is this policy even needed? But I would be curious to see what you get back in your research, because I wouldn't say that we're a unique entity that needs a novel approach. My 2 cents.
Any other final 2 cents? We're racking in the money tonight.
I'm trying to pay Frank.
With the 2 cents. Okay, so have we decided that we're gonna ask Frank to table this, ask Frank to come back?
Yep.
With guidance, suggestions, and then also, Margaret, if you stumble upon anything and have thoughts, your thoughts on this also? Okay. Item 7.6, approve 2 repair projects at the wastewater treatment plant, awarding contracts to Shenandoah Excavating in the amounts of $18,070 and $8,530. And could we please have a staff report on this?
So this item is before you because we have 2 different projects at the wastewater treatment plant. The first project is a service road repair project, and it is for the road that goes between ponds 1 and 2. The road is eroding into the pond, and we can barely get our excavator on that road to service the aerators that we have to pull out to service when they get gunked up from the poo-poo. And if the aerators are pushing the stuff towards that road, and so it's continuing to erode away, and if the road, if it breaks through to from pond 1 to pond 2, we'll be in violation, and fees will come into play. So we need to mitigate it before it gets to that point. The second project is the Ranch House Spray Field access road, and there's a little culvert, and the pipe is rusted that goes between the spray field pond and across the way to the next property. And we are going to remove that rusted pipe and replace it with 2 new pipes. And the adjacent property owner has agreed to clean out the overgrown stuff on his side of the property. And sorry, this isn't my area of expertise. So they're going to put 2 pipes to make it flow better from our side to that side, and that should help to make the culvert flow better. It'll be 2 18-inch pipes. So we did consult with Weber Geoengineering as well as the AWA Chief Wastewater Operator, who both are recommending that these projects move forward. And because we have adopted the informal bidding and accounting procedures, the UPCA that we adopted in, I believe it was November or December, we can use the informal bidding. We are recommending that you award the 2 contracts to Shenandoah Excavating, right? In a total amount of $26,600.
Thank you. I'll open this for public comment now. Is there anybody here in City Hall who'd like to comment on item 7.6? Have we received any written public comment? No. Okay. I'll go ahead and close this to public comment now. And Councilmember White.
I'll try not to get too wordy or too confused on it or anything. This is part of government I just don't like. These projects need to be done, and and in the private sector, they would just get done. And this is the part I can't stand of it. So, Shenandoah Excavating's local. It'll get done quick. Yeah, I mean, no problem.
Councilmember Amoruso.
I would wholeheartedly agree with Mr. White. My only question for transparency purposes was this done under an emergency act, or because usually we have a $5,000 threshold, then it has to go out to bid. So I just didn't know how that, I'm just for curiosity more than anything.
We adopted UPCA, which is the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act, which allows us to do informal bidding up to $60,000.
We actually adopted it probably a month or two before you came back. Yeah. So so other than that, that was the old practice. We had to declare emergency, or we were, yeah.
And yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Just get it done. They're a great company. They'll be professional.
Councilmember Sim.
Yeah, I read this. It all seems very reasonable. Obviously, if Matt thinks this is the right way to approach this project, I'm okay with that. I'm glad it's being done by a local company rather than having somebody come out of Lodi or Sacramento or wherever. They're right here in town. Obviously, this time of year you have weather issues. They go out there. They have to go home because they can't work in the afternoon, and they drive 2 miles. They don't drive 40 miles. So I think it makes great sense. Anyway, obviously it needs to be done. It's not a lot of money. Thank you.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin.
I don't have anything to add at this point.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything to add at this point. So I'd entertain a motion on this item. 7.6.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2 repair projects at the wastewater treatment plant, awarding contracts to Shenandoah Excavating in the amounts of $18,000 and $8,530.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Sim,
Aye.
Councilmember Amoruso,
Aye.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mayor Ackerland.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. 8, council or staff communications. Do we have a city manager's report?
Yes, I just want to give you a quick update on a few projects. The fire station project is moving forward. The environmental work was turned into HCD this week, and so construction is going to start to proceed. We're going to be putting out the notice to contractors on the 22nd with a mandatory pre-bid on February 2nd, with the bid opening on February 29th, and it should be to the council on the March 14th meeting to award the contract for the contractors. The housing element environmental draft is to us for review, and hopefully the final draft will be to us next week, and I'm hoping that'll be on the next council agenda for approval. The fee studies, the 5-year development impact study is complete, and it was online on time by the deadline of December 31st, and that'll be on the next council agenda for action. The citywide fee study and water and wastewater fee studies are in progress, and they're analyzing the data that we've provided, and those studies should be done in the next couple of months, and they'll be back for council approval. Our municipal code codifier was purchased by another company, and so the municipal code now looks very different online, but the city will be able to obtain information now on the back end of how many people are visiting the website, what pages they're visiting, and get statistics on the website, which is a new feature that we didn't have before. So that's good news. This past week, I met with Tanya with the USDA regarding obtaining USDA grants. It was a very informative meeting that she and I had. The mayor and Jim Wise weren't able to join us this time. Jim, the mayor, and I have had a series of meetings trying to get grant funding for water and wastewater pipes. Tanya and I met for about 45 minutes. The advice she gave me was that probably should have the engineers start designing a project split into segments so that we could be ready to submit an application when the right grant comes up. So I've contacted Matt Hospital, and he and I are going to meet next week. Next week, I also have a meeting with PG&E regarding Rule 20A, which is the undergrounding of overhead wires. I got an email stating that the city of Plymouth has over $162,000 available to us to underground some wires. So I have a meeting with her to try to capitalize and use those fundings that haven't been used. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Council member reports. Councilmember White?
I thought it was funny. Mike earlier, he said something that he was into tech and he was real fast at it and stuff. I kind of like baseball. You know, the pickle play in baseball is when you're stuck between two bases. I don't know. Sometimes we got to joke and laugh about things. Sorry I went that way. First thing off, I am packed full of a lot of hate right now of what's going on in my life, which I think could be an understandable thing. But hate is not a good thing. I'd like to apologize to Mr. Amaruso before the meeting. Me and him kind of had, I should say I had some words with him, and it wasn't of me. So I think as we move forward, just having hate to have hate, man, it's a lot of energy to burn off. We're a community. Let's start loving each other. Let's start thinking about loving each other. It's good to have differences of opinion. I want us to all be different. That, you know, I had a college professor who used to tell me that diversity leads to stability, and I still believe in that 110%. So, you know, I hope that some citizens are listening. We do hear your voice. We do want to hear your voice. But I think we can move forward in a lot different of a manner. Now on to the next topic that I just want to thank our community, our county, our city. The blood drive that was held for my mom a couple weeks ago was amazing. Thank you. I saw Councilmember Sims and I saw Mayor Ackerland there. It just warms my heart. It was just unbelievable. So I just wanted to give a thank you to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Amoroso?
I just want to say thank you, Keith. Appreciate that. And we love you. Just want to say Happy New Year, and hopefully this year will be a better year. Thank you.
Councilmember Sim?
I have a question for Margaret. I was just curious how the trading post project is coming along. Is that something that we could talk about at this point, or I presume it's still in its infancy as far as the environmental impact report? And will that go to the Planning Commission at some point?
It will probably be before the Planning Commission in the next couple of months for the environmental report.
And then they will review it and come to us at that point? Is that how it works? That's,
Yes.
and the Greeley Ranch projects, same thing? That's still
It's,
in
they're
the middle of
still,
their,
they're still in the middle of the environmental report.
does it seem like it's stalled out a little bit?
They stopped theirs until the water issue could be resolved,
Okay,
and then now they've started back up.
they have
Mm-hmm.
recently,
Yes.
I see, okay. Thank you, that's all I have.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin?
It just wasn't on my direct agenda, but Councilmember White, I just appreciate your comments about community and us pulling together. And, you know, the five of us as elected officials are working incredibly hard for this community to try to make sure this community is here for decades and will not to come. And you know, far too often it's getting lost in whatever type of translation you want to refer to with innuendos and different things on social media. So very, very sad. But as Councilmember White said, you know, it's time to unify and let's push together and just do some great stuff. Life's too short. Just a couple things to report on. One of which is the Sheriff Ad Hoc Committee. We have not met since the last, but a lot of work has been happening in the background, trying to reassemble and codify our history of law enforcement within the city of Plymouth. And Mike Sullivan has done just an amazing job of pulling together information. I'm looking forward to see this report coming together and being able to present it back to council as we continue to do the work to set ourselves up working forward on that. The other last item I have is, I don't know, it's semi-personal, but it's not personal at all. Is that a month ago we received notice that our homeowners insurance was being canceled for wildfire reasons. And as a 32-year fire service veteran, someone who's been involved with wildfire stuff, I'm just appalled at the government at all levels in the state in which we live. Our for many years, the fire service was verboten from being able to do control burns because it's important to allow nature to become nature. Well, the part that they forgot about that is fire is part of the natural ecosystem, and removing that creates an imbalance in nature, which creates an overload of fuels, which creates catastrophic fires when they ignite. And now we find ourselves, I live in the city of Plymouth in a medium fire hazard severity area. I don't bump up to any open space. I'm surrounded by houses in a flat area, and my fire insurance is canceled.
Mine was canceled too.
And I went from paying $900 a year for fire and homeowners insurance to $3,500 a year in fire and homeowners insurance on a 1,000 square foot house. And then they wanted to charge an additional policy so that we could get our fences taken care of if they burned down. And we said we'd take our chances on that one. But it just, I know I can't be the only ones in the community that are receiving these notices. And the challenges we're facing is this is, I spoke of the environmental aspect of fire fuels, but we've also been faced in California with the California Insurance Commission capping what insurance companies can charge for premiums, which means that the insurance companies aren't allowed to actually charge a risk-based cost. They're capped in what they can collect, and so when they have a major loss, it's a major loss, and that's why we're seeing so many insurance companies pulling out of the state of California. The whole situation, I guess, quote Gordon Graham, if it's predictable, it's preventable. This whole situation is preventable, and it's tragic, and I don't know how people would do it. We were required to pay cash, $3,000 to do our policy cash. It's not a part of an escrow account. It won't take a credit card. I don't know how, it's just a strange and crazy and interesting time that we're in. And I'm sharing this because I know I can't be the only ones in the community, and I'm certain that we'll be hearing something at some point with that coming back. But anyway, definitely an interesting chain of events. So, no.
Just went through it. But it's California Fair Plan.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can charge the premiums you need to be charged.
Excuse me. I have nothing to report. So future agenda items. Councilmember White.
I'm good for right now.
Councilmember Amoroso.
Nothing at the moment.
Councilmember Sim.
I'm good.
Vice Mayor McLaughlin.
Councilmember works. It's easier, rolls off the tongue a little bit. I didn't have one, but with Ms. Champ's presentation tonight, I'd love to see at some point a report on like county homelessness, right? I mean, we know we're seeing, I would say more and more, you know, we don't have a homelessness problem directly in the city of Plymouth, but it'd be interesting to learn a little bit about, you know, what we have in place as far as city ordinance, city code, city different things along that line, but also learning potentially from the county and nonprofits in the county of what resources out there. I don't have a clear picture of what a report like this would look like, but it'd be more about educational, and as Ms. Champ asked, is something just to get it on our radar, create awareness. And so would love to see that at not any definitive point, but when it would be appropriate. That is all.
And I have a request for a future agenda item. And you guys have probably, those of you that have been on the council before, have probably heard this one come up, but I'm thinking that the council should have a discussion to see if we should consider a ballot measure related to the city clerk, city treasurer positions being appointed versus elected.
Yes.
We
Okay.
agree with you on that.
Okay.
What, because I know we've been there, done that. I think it's been a couple of times, right? That what if we did a public workshop, you know, that's just focused solely on that, right? The public be a part of the conversation to start the conversation, because the key to this would be education. And so, sorry, I don't mean to take it away. It's just something that came to mind is, you know, that let's encourage the public to be a part of this from the beginning so that we can start. This is why this is important and why this antiquated model is no longer meeting the needs of our residents. So, just a thought.
No, I think part of that discussion should include, like you said, the educational piece and education and awareness and
That's been the problem.
yeah.
As to why we're doing that, yeah.
Okay, so we all seem to agree that
So do we have consensus on both items?
on both items.
Homelessness and,
As far as the homelessness, what I would be willing to do, I don't think this covers everything that you're thinking, Mike, but I'd be happy to put together a list of resources and programs and nonprofits in the community that I'm aware of, and see that list grow. And then I've liked it when we've had a couple of times when people come from organizations and do presentations, and I think that I'd be happy to look for maybe like the sheriff's department. I think they call it the Heart Task Force, and ask them to come to talk to us and tell us what that's about.
I think that's what I had in mind is having, you know, the experts in our community come speak
Yeah.
with us and educate us. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the meeting for tonight, January 11th, is now adjourned at 8:34.